What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. It's the night where every WWE Championship is on the line, but who will retain and who will emerge as new champions? Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the 2020 edition of Clash of Champions, recapping the matches and analysing the show for the good, the bad and the downright ugly. Now before we do that, just before the show, WWE announced that 3 competitors won't be there, that being Nikki Cross, as we reported earlier, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, which meant that the women's tag team match never happened. Bayley got a new challenger, but we'll see who it was. As always, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now let's head into the pre-show, and things have changed, as it was supposed to be Asuka vs Zelina Vega, but that changed up later. Instead, we got the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match between champions Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro versus the Lucha House Party of Lince Dorado and Kalisto. Now, if you've been following SmackDown, there's been dissension between Kalisto and his Lucha House Party teammates Dorado and Gran Metalik, but tonight the team looks solid. Regrettably, the tag team champions are on fire, and after Nakamura disposes of Dorado at ringside, Cesaro hits the Cesaro swing on Kalisto, followed by Nakamura's Kinshasa to the mush. This helps the SmackDown Tag Team Champions retain the belts. Now it's time for the main show, as the show opens up with a huge match, that being the ladder match to determine the undisputed Intercontinental Champion between AJ Styles, Sami Zayn and Jeff Hardy. It's a match for the ages, as all 3 superstars put their bodies on the line in a thrilling encounter. In the end, Sami Zayn's cunning wins the day and the title as he uses handcuffs to neutralize Hardy and Styles, trapping them, including using the handcuffs through Jeff's earlobe, and allowing himself the opportunity to grab the belts. Sami Zayn is the undisputed Intercontinental Champion. After the match, Sami Zayn reminds Kayla Braxton that he never lost the title and he's simply retaining it. Do you feel that was the case? Let us know in the comments down below. Backstage, a disguised R-Truth wanders around the arena when Drew Gulak rolls him up for the 1-2-3, becoming the new 24/7 champion. Yep, another roll-up for the win. Seems to be the only move in 24/7 championship matches. Next up is the Raw Women's Championship match as champion Asuka takes on Zelina Vega. Vega shows potential, but Asuka wrestles on another level and gets the submission win with the Asuka lock. Asuka manages to retain the Raw Women's Championship, but after the match, she offers a hand to Vega, but Vega refuses, bowing before the Empress of Tomorrow. However, when Asuka bows, Vega kicks her, bailing out and leaving the champion furious. Next up is the United States Championship match as champion Bobby Lashley, who's with MVP, takes on Apollo Crews, who's got Ricochet in his corner. Lashley dominated Crews with the power moves, but a misstep sees Lashley sent into the ring post and Crews comes back, nearly getting the win. However, the Almighty catches Crews with a chokeslam and applies the Hurt Lock, getting the submission win. Bobby Lashley retains the US Championship. Next up, it's more tag team action as Raw Tag Team Champions the Street Profits take on Andrade and Angel Garza. It's all Andrade and Garza as they show why they are one of the best tag teams in the WWE, dominating the match. However, 4 gets the hot tag to Dawkins, who hits the anointment on Andrade, covering him for a 2 count that the referee actually counts as a 3. Was it a mistake? Well, it appears that Garza may have been injured at ringside and the referee made the 3 count so the match can be ended early and Angel attended to. Some eagle-eyed fans saw that the referee threw up the dreaded X sign, which meant this wasn't a work. Angel Garza seems to be legitimately injured, but we hope he's okay. Nevertheless, the Street Profits retain the Raw Tag Team Championship. Next up, it's the SmackDown Women's Championship match, but Bayley has no opponent. As we noted on our pre-show and mentioned in our earlier news video, Nikki Cross is unable to compete. Bayley offers a title shot to anyone in the back, and guess who answers it? Yeah, it's the Empress of Tomorrow. She comes out for a second match of the night. But the match doesn't get far as things get too hot for Bayley and she grabs a chair, clobbering Asuka and getting the DQ win. Asuka wins, but by disqualification, so there's no title change. But after the match, Bayley gloats, but that's until Sasha Banks blindsides her with a chair. Bayley turns things around and goes to target Banks' still injured neck, which is in a neck brace, but Banks fights back and sends Bayley running. Next up, it's the ambulance match for the WWE Championship as champion Drew McIntyre takes on Randy Orton. But Randy Orton isn't going home without his 14th World Championship, and he's willing to do anything to get McIntyre in the ambulance. Randy Orton does everything he can, and since this is a no disqualification match, there's nothing he can't do, including low blows and using every inch of the Thunderdome as a weapon, targeting McIntyre's injured jaw. However, Orton's past comes back to haunt him as the Big Show arrives, chokeslamming Orton through an announce table. Later on, Christian then shows up and pummels the Viper backstage, and then the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels surprises Orton on top of the ambulance, super kicking him off the vehicle. We were hoping to see Edge, but we didn't get to see him. Drew McIntyre uses every opportunity to regroup and stuffs Orton into the ambulance after a Claymore kick. But the WWE Champion isn't finished, and he pulls Orton's head out, delivering a punt kick and then closing the doors on the ambulance and Orton's bid for the championship. Drew McIntyre retains the WWE Championship, but after the match the ambulance drives off and the fans see Nature Boy Ric Flair behind the wheel, capping the lineup of Orton's past victims who got their own bit of revenge tonight. And finally, it's time for the main event as Universal Champion Roman Reigns, who's with Paul Heyman, takes on Jey Uso. There's a great video package at the beginning that shows that these two aren't letting family get in their way. Both is out to prove themselves, both Roman Reigns, who wants to be the tribal chief, and Jey Uso, who's looking for his identity. Now it seems as if the rumors were true. Roman Reigns has changed up his attire, and it looks fantastic. Finally, he's got rid of the vest that he's been wearing over the past several years. Reigns has a fantastic physique, and he looks like more of a heel now. A very no-nonsense tribal chief, if you will. We're totally in favour of this new change. The match actually starts off pretty hot, and Roman Reigns is in full heel mode, so much so that he even begs Jey Uso to call him the tribal chief. Now this definitely wasn't a quick squash match, it was Jey Uso giving everything he had in the match to take the big dog down and get his hands on the Universal Championship. But the big dog proves too much, and even after a pummeling beatdown, Jimmy Uso then comes out with a towel ready to throw it in. Jey Uso begs him not to do so, but finally it gets too much after Roman Reigns delivers a vicious beatdown towards the end of the match, leading to Jimmy Uso throwing in the towel and Roman Reigns retaining the Universal Championship as the Clash of Champions pay-per-view closes out. But that was a quick review of the pay-per-view. What about the good, the bad, and the downright ugly of the show? As always, we start off with the good as number 1, a strong opener. Now tonight's pre-show match was a good opener, and while the WWE Network gets the bulk of viewers, there's still a small but important significant pay-per-view market. The tag team match was a good showcase of both teams and a smart way to lure in any last-minute buy rates. While fans didn't get to see things play out with Kalisto's problems with his tag team partners, it was still a good match. Number 2, undeniable heat. Despite a schmoz of a SmackDown women's match, there's no denying the white-hot heat between Bayley and Sasha Banks. They have Feud of the Year candidate on their hands, even more than Orton vs Edge, and they could book this on through the Royal Rumble or even to WrestleMania 37 if they do things right. The problem, of course, is that Hell in a Cell is the first chance to put these two in a big money match, and the WWE desperately needs to resist the urge to put them into the cell. If they can do this, the feud could be everything the fans have been waiting for. Number 3, Orton's past comes out to haunt him. It's hard to think of any good ambulance matches from the past, but the WWE found a clever way to put a fun spin on the match as Randy Orton had some uninvited guests. Tonight could have been Randy Orton's night to win a 14th World Championship, but the sins of his past caught up with him as the Viper's victims showed up to cash in their receipts. Things began with the Big Show stopping Orton from punt-kicking McIntyre, and Orton's hit list of victims turned the hunter into the hunted, each getting some revenge on the legend killer. The appearances by Christian, Shawn Michaels and even Ric Flair were a good way to show actions have consequences for heels, as well as to set up a rematch down the road as Orton can claim McIntyre only won through the help of outside interference. But to be honest, we hope this feud is done. Number 4, making a single star. Tonight, Roman Reigns did what the world champion did in the territory days, take regional stars and make them look like potential world champions. Jey Uso put in a fantastic performance, and it was a potentially star-making effort by Roman Reigns as he made Uso look like he might have won the belt if it wasn't for what looked like a low blow from Roman. Naturally, it's what the WWE does next with Jey that matters. Will he go back to the tag team ranks or rise up as a single star? Number 5, Roman's rage. Although it's too early to tell if Jey got the rub from his cousin, it's clear that the Reigns-Uso match served the purpose of putting the tribal chief as someone who is willing to demolish anyone who steps in his path. Throwing Jimmy Uso into the mix was a fitting way to accentuate Reigns' bid for absolute control of the entire WWE, beginning with his family. Number Number 6. Zelina Vega's potential. Zelina Vega isn't ready for a women's championship, but her performance against Asuka was adequate, and her performance as a sore loser after the match was another example of how Vega understands how to get heat. Should she be a manager? Should she be a wrestler? She may prove capable of excelling at both. Number 7. MVP puts the hurt on Apollo. While tonight's show didn't feature many highlights, MVP showed why he's such an excellent manager, trash-talking Apollo Crews while Bobby Lashley beat him down and making himself a general pest. Just imagine how much heat MVP will get when the fans return. Number 8. The Great. Oh no, there's no way to rank tonight's ladder match as good because the match was one of the greatest ladder matches of recent time and by far the best match we've seen during the Thunderdome era. All three men put their bodies on the line, which is all the more impressive considering AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy are 43 years old compared to 36-year-old Sami Zayn, a comparative youngster. Jeff's sick bump off the 20-foot ladder onto Zayn was death-defying and definitely a spot to remember. The finish was one of the most innovative as Sami Zayn handcuffed Jeff's ear to the ladder, then seemingly taking himself out of the match when he handcuffed himself to AJ. Zayn may have not out-wrestled his opponents, but he outwitted them in a match for the ages. But that was the good. What about the bad? Number 1. Drew, we hardly knew you. No, we're not talking about Drew McIntyre, we're talking about Drew Gulak, the Cruiserweight champion who impressed Daniel Bryan so much that the two became friends and Gulak seemed headed for big things, including a run as Intercontinental champion. Well, that ship has clearly sailed and tonight's WWE 24/7 title win is cold comfort for Drew as well as his fans who expected a bigger push. Number 2. A change of plans. Nikki Cross's unexplained absence threw Clash of Champions off, not so much because fans were counting on her winning the SmackDown Women's Championship, but because the hastily thrown together Bayley vs Asuka match was a reminder of the equally hastily thrown together match between Vega and Asuka. It's likely Bayley would have had a DQ ending had she wrestled Nikki Cross, since the purpose of tonight's match was to further Banks vs Bayley, but the WWE put zero effort into the match and it showed. Both women's title matches showed how little the WWE cares about its women's belt, despite a talented roster on the red and blue brands. And number 3, a flop of a finish. While it's too early to tell whether the referee had to end the Raw Tag Team Championship match early due to injury or the referee simply made a mistake, it was a terrible finish to a match that showed just how excellent a team Andrade and Angel Garza are. It also illustrated the WWE's pressing problem, its inability to make up its mind whether it should keep the team together or split them up. We feel that the team is too good to split, but considering how badly the WWE books its tag team division, we're not confident the two will stay together. Now, there was no downright ugly of tonight's show. It was actually the type of pay-per-view that featured one great match, there's no other way to describe the triple threat match, and a fun brawl, that being the ambulance match that was largely saved by the special guest stars showing up to beat down Randy Orton, not to mention that fantastic ending. The rest of the card was pretty forgettable and a reminder that the WWE has several programs that need to come to a conclusion, ranging from the status of Angel Garza and Andrade as a team and Apollo Crews' quest for the US Championship. The WWE has a bit of a problem ahead with Banks vs Bayley, but there's a lot that needs to be done with the rest of the show, such as who is next for Asuka as well as Drew McIntyre. Clash of Champions had some unforeseen problems such as Garza's possible injury, as well as the last minute changes to the card. Nevertheless, they have a big enough roster that needs to be prepared for last minute changes. But there you have it guys, our recap of the 2020 Clash of Champions pay-per-view, including the good, the bad and the downright ugly. What did you guys think of tonight's pay-per-view? Let us know in the comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.